off right now. No picture to worry. Yeah, no, you were fine.
Oh, yeah. I didn't tell him.
It is 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the August 16th council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes, here.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Here.
Ritter,
Here.
and Council Member Murdoch is absent this evening.
Okay. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item tonight is a public hearing on the city's 2019 budget. Were you gonna, any presentation before the open hearing, or?
I did, it's
Or
kind
do
of
it
up to
later.
you. I'd planned on doing kind of the presentation during the public hearing time, so
Okay.
that anybody who's interested could kind of see
Alright.
the outline, yeah.
So we'll open the public hearing then.
Yeah, if you wish, I can start off with just a recap of the budget. You know, we've been working on this since early this spring. I think the council started to get engaged sometime around April. By and large, we were done with our part of the budget by around, the 1st of June sometime. On July 19th, we had a discussion here at the council meeting on the final draft and didn't have any further changes to the draft at that point, so we decided to go ahead and call for the public hearing for the budget for tonight. The process tonight would be to gather any input from the public you might have, and then depending on that output, or that feedback, approve the published budget, which we will then submit to the county next week. Our deadline for county submittal is August 25th. So in the event that we have something come up tonight that we still want to hash through or reconsider, we could call a special meeting sometime next week to finalize the budget. So I'm just going to run through just a quick, kind of hit the highlights of the 2019 budget as it's proposed. I apologize for the first spreadsheet, the spreadsheet on the PowerPoint. You're never supposed to put a bunch of numbers up on a PowerPoint, but this is a overall summary spreadsheet of all of the funds in our 2019 budget. The expected revenues for the general fund are right around $4 million. Expenses right around $4.8 million. This was done on purpose because we've had some windfall revenues this year, mostly about $650,000 in delinquent tax from the sale of a defunct subdivision at Cherokee Woods, and then some FEMA money and some sales tax money that were, we call them windfall revenues, that we're programming expenditures for next year. Water fund, we're expecting revenues of about 1.6, expenditures about 1.8. Sewer fund revenues just under 700,000, expenses about the same. We also show refuse, police, and debt service as well. So in total, with all the funds, we're budgeting revenues about 10.8 million, expenditures about 11.6. The bottom of this chart here shows fund balance positions. So the first column here is 2018. In the general fund, we started 2018 with about 1.3 million. We think that we're projecting currently that to increase to 2.3 million by the end of the year. That's assuming we spend all the budget allocations. So this is really largely a result of those windfall revenues. So starting the year next year, January 1 at 2.3, we'll end the year back at about 1.5. So what this does is we're showing, in the fund balance, on the fund balance side, the spending down of those windfall revenues that we've seen. And the 1.5 are we do have a policy for fund balances, fund balance reserves, and for the general fund, it's 30% of the operating expenses. So the 1.5 will put us still just over 30% of the operating expenses. This is done very purposefully. The concept is we don't want to levy any more taxes than we need, and excess fund balance could be an indication that you're levying too much tax and not putting that tax to beneficial use. So that's the overall numbers story of the budget. In terms of policy directives, can report, and the council knows this is more for the public's consumption. The mill levy will have a reduction of almost 1 mil, 0.99 mils. That represents a decrease in funding of a mill is about $76,000 for DeSoto. So reducing the mill by about 1. That decrease consists of about 0.43 mils in the general fund, a slight increase in the law enforcement fund, and a decrease in the debt service fund of almost 0.7 mils. The debt service fund reduction is discretionary. We've seen the fund balance in that mostly due to higher than expected sales tax revenues. Some of those sales taxes go toward debt service. That fund balance has been increasing notably over the last several years, so we're decreasing that mill levy this year by that roughly about 0.7. We also have an electric utility repayment that we scheduled a couple of years ago. We borrowed $450,000 for that fund to do the street improvement there at Commerce and Lexington. We're paying that back. We paid half of it back this year. We'll pay half of it back next year. There is an allocation in the general fund called unspecified initiatives. The amount is $450,000. This is the bulk of these windfall revenues that we will be spending down next year. We haven't identified the exact projects that we're going to make use of that. So throughout the rest of the fall and into next year, we'll be making those decisions. But some of the things we've talked about are broadband initiatives, public works facility, restroom facilities at the park, marketing promotion tools. There were other ideas that came up. We're kind of handling this a lot like we do capital improvements, where we budget an amount and then decide later on the exact projects. Another policy directive, equipment and replacement program. We've got new trucks and tractor for the park department, new equipment for the water and for the street department. The budget includes a 4% wage and cost of living and merit increase for all employees. That's a total overall 4%. Budget also includes a proposed water rate increase of 2.5%. We see that as largely an inflationary increase. That the water fund is relatively healthy with the year-end fund balances. Similarly, sewer fund, we're projecting a 3.5% rate increase. The sewer fund isn't quite as healthy as the water fund, so that increase is a little bit more than a budgetary increase. We're also showing these windfall revenues. I talked about the $650,000 delinquent tax, and there's a $70,000 reimbursement from FEMA that we weren't expecting to happen this year. So this table here below kind of shows how we're using these windfall revenues, the unspecified initiatives at $450,000. We do have specific projects in mind, some warning siren replacements, $48,000 there, gym floor resurfacing for $25,000, some door and window replacements here around City Hall, and then new accounting software for City Hall, the main accounting software that does all our billing and tracks all these budgets. That's a big ticket, $101,000, and also court software for $30,000. Other notables in the general fund, our health insurance premium, unfortunately, has been relatively stable over the past 5 or 6 years at 2 or 3 or 4% increase. This year, we're going to get hit with a 9.2% increase over 2018, so that's rolled into the budget. We've also put an additional $400,000 into the into the street department budget. This 400 grand had been in the capital improvements budget, but because it's largely maintenance, we decided that it's more appropriate that that just gets budgeted on a yearly basis within the general fund. So that's there. The software I talked about also, talked about the new accounting software for City Hall and the court system software. Our law enforcement sheriff's contract will increase next year by about 8.8%. It too has a history of, some years it had been no increase, but labor costs for the sheriff's department are increasing, as are fuel and other commodity costs. And then we've also have the adjustment includes each year there's a factor for call load into Soto, so we had a bit more call load this year than we had in previous years. So all those things combined to total an 8.8% in law enforcement. In the water fund, like I said, a 2.5% rate increase. We are showing the water fund paying for about a quarter of the new accounting software for City Hall because it's water bills. So that $25,000 is included in the water department budget. That's part of this $101,000. So the $101,000 is the total for that accounting software. We also have $60,000 in capital outlay to clean a lime sludge lagoon up at the water plant. The sewer fund, 3.5% rate increase. We do have a transfer from the sewer development fee fund of $70,000 into the sewer fund. So the sewer development fee is collected anytime we issue a building permit for anything, any habitable structure, single-family residential structure. It's $3,000, and for commercial, it goes up from there. That fund has been increasing over the last several years. By the end of this year, there will be almost $200,000 in that. I'm sorry, $150,000 in that fund. So we're transferring from that to the sewer fund next year, $70,000. Otherwise, those funds would just go to the debt service. That and the water development fee just typically just go to debt service. So with the sewer fund being not as healthy as the water, this will help prop up that fund. Transient gas tax is another one that we talk about a bit here. We're budgeting $23,000 to the Chamber of Commerce and EDC for programmed activities. That's in line with what we've done in the past. $1,500 for Sunflower Art Fest, and I apologize, I don't know what happened. I'll get there. What happened there? And $1,500 for Wine Song. Also in the general fund, the economic development, $55,000 to the EDC. This is the same as last year. We don't have any specific restrictions on its use. So those are payments that are typically made quarterly, and the EDC allocates those funds as they see fit. Lastly, capital improvements. We have $1.6 million in capital improvements to do next year. The big project is 91st Street Extension from where it currently stops at Starside Elementary out to Sunflower Road. We anticipate that to be about a $1.5 million project. We'll also keep going on our annual sidewalk program, $20,000, and some signal modifications to our traffic signal, the only one, $60,000. And then we'll also transfer from the capital improvement to the debt service fund. So those are the notable elements of the 2019 budget. The council, if you feel compelled, of course, we'll hear input from the public, and then we might or might not take action on the item later in the agenda.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to comment on the budget? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing then.
Yes.
And move on to the end of the agenda. Our first item is the consent agenda. Approve the minutes of our council meeting of August 2nd and approve pay ordinance number 836.
Make a motion that we move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Let's roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Monaco, Daniels,
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried, Mayor.
Okay. Next item is called to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not on tonight's agenda. Anyone wish to address the council tonight? Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Council. My name's Doug Bedford. I live at 32170 West 83rd Street here in DeSoto. It's going to be somewhat similar. I'm a member of the Northwest Consolidated Fire Board, and as you guys, the city is addressing your budget. We actually just did the same thing with through the county government, the BOCC recently. With that taking place, kind of under the direction of Chairman McDaniel, the entire fire board, we just wanted to come and talk with you. Interim Chief Todd Maxton, he's actually out of town right now, so I know Battalion Chief Bob McCoy is here, so anything that I can't answer or any lies you don't believe, I'll just defer to Bob. Maybe he can kind of help us out with it. In addition to the budget, what we want to talk about with the Northwest Consolidated, we also just kind of wanted to keep the board apprised of what's been taking place throughout the last couple months and things like that with the fire department. Again, as you talked about your board, the Northwest Consolidated, our budget was recently passed also with the BOCC. One of the things, and I know Councilmember Ritter and I talked about it in the past regarding the mill levy, things like that. We wanted to bring it to the board's attention that the fire department, the fire district did reduce the mill levy. It's kind of funny, and I think everyone here is very well aware of how the mill levy works. It was like a 21, and then it was reduced to a 20, but it's actually just like 0.9 something. So it's not a full mill, but it's right in that area. 0.917, I guess, is how much. So almost a mill is what it was reduced. One of the things that we looked at there is appraisal values. Whenever appraisal values went up, we thought that was, again, through Chairman McDaniel, that was one of the things that he brought up, try to be good to the constituents, the taxpayers throughout the area that we have. And so that's one of the things that we did, and we really focused on that, and we were able to reduce it. A few other things that have been taking place. Excuse me. I wanted to talk about some of the vehicles that we have with the fire department. We needed a new chief's vehicle. We had a chief's vehicle a few years ago. That was kind of handed down to the battalion chiefs. That vehicle's over 12 years old. That's actually kind of hurting right now also. So we're in the process, and it was budgeted accordingly with the fire district to buy a new battalion chief's vehicle. Again, Chief McCoy can answer any questions if I miss it. But it's going to be a completely outfitted vehicle, and we should have that up and going for the BCs this next month. So, as everyone knows, vehicles aren't cheap. So this was a brand new vehicle. After you put all the boxes, all the equipment, everything into it, you're going to be looking at a price of about $60,000 approximately. But again, that was budgeted accordingly by the board. A chief's vehicle. We needed to get a new one of those. With that, we didn't feel like going out and buying another brand new vehicle for the chief to drive along in or ride along to operate in. So what we ended up doing is we contacted Kansas Highway Patrol. KHP, they actually use their vehicles up to about 48,000 miles. So we were able to get a 2017 Explorer. Whenever we get it, it comes with all the lights, all the emergency equipment that it needs. The only thing we need to do is plug in our radio. They put brand new tires, brand new brakes, and I believe a brand new windshield in it also. And it smells just like a brand new vehicle. So we picked that up for just over $20,000.
You have to paint that red?
No, I asked Chief Maxton. I said, hey, are we going to put any stickers or anything like that? There's a license plate. I think that's all we're going to get out of the front of it. But it's a silver Explorer. So if you see that driving around with a license plate, that's what that's going to be. We're currently, and this was recently passed prior to our budget for the budget of 2019, we're in the RFP process for a new fire engine. Northwest Consolidated, currently we have one vehicle that's 5 years old, and I'm talking the engines. 5 years, 10 years, 15, and 23 years old. We don't know that that's the best thing to do for our taxpayers. So as part of our budget, and again, Chairman McDaniel was really spearheading all of this, how we could try to move the funds around. A new truck, I think Councilmember Ritter could probably tell you for sure you're looking at $550,000, maybe $600,000 for a new truck. That is going to be budgeted, not in 1 year, mind you. We're going to do a payment plan, but that's going to be budgeted. So we're in the RFP process right now to try to get a new truck. A rescue airboat. We used to have a couple boats. That was before my time on the board. I don't know that they were truly designed for river crossing, river rescues, but we're, especially after the recent incident that was down 2 months ago, about 2 months ago when a gentleman unfortunately lost his life down there. That's one of the things that the fire department needs, and we know it. And so we're in the RFP process. I think they have a couple lieutenants and a couple firefighters actually doing the research. We're trying to get grant money. We are also trying to look, whenever the word kind of got out that we're looking at getting, wanting to get a rescue airboat is what we're looking at. And you're talking about $80,000 when this thing is outfitted how you need it. There's been a number of businesses and citizens throughout the city that have expressed an interest in donating money for that purchase. So we have our accountant, our attorney, everybody's looking in to make sure we dot the I's, cross the T's, and make sure we do it legally. But we're in the process of doing that. Fire department supervisors, just want to let everyone know they're working collaboratively with Johnson County government for as many things as we can do, whether that's working through the budget or what. One of the things that we are doing, we're working with Johnson County Human Resources. They're going to teach a class on harassment training for all fire department personnel, and then additional training that's going to, am I talking too fast, Lana? Are you good? Additional training for all supervisors on harassment training. We think that's paramount for the firefighters and for the staff. Staffing, all individuals that were promoted in 2017, everything looks good as far as their job performance. They should all come off of probation next month, September. Whenever they are taken from probation or whenever their probation time expires, that's going to, like for instance, the lieutenants. Right now, we have a Lieutenant Sean McCoy that's an acting battalion chief. We have a couple other lieutenants. By having those next three that are off of probation, we haven't used them for any sort of overtime coverage or anything like that in the BC ranks. But once they're off probation, they're going to be cleared to do that. We recently promoted 2 master firefighters. And also the board approved staffing for at least 1 full-time employee next year. What that's going to do is provide relief factor to whenever we have the minimum staffing so we can reduce overtime. So again, we're planning on that. Fire hydrants. This is something that the fire department recently just completed within like the last couple weeks or a month. They actually put hands-on. There's 250 fire hydrants in the city of DeSoto, and they put hands on to all 250. Talking to Chief McCoy, Chief Maxton, to their knowledge, that's the first time in the history of DeSoto with the fire department that every single fire hydrant had been inspected. Some of them, there's going to be some work that needs to be done. Lieutenant Welch, he actually made up an Excel spreadsheet of the checks that they did, the damage that they found, or what needs to be repaired, and that's been forwarded to the city, to the water department, and so they can try to address those issues. Training. Firefighter training has increased. Currently planning on sending 2 firefighters to Michigan in January for ICE Train the Trainer. I think in Michigan in January they're going to have plenty of ICE to train on. Again, if the purchase of the airboat takes place, there's going to be training involved with that also. And again, we'll have more of that down the road. Several firefighters are going to be attending advanced extrication training this next month. Extrication equipment has not been purchased in over a decade. We anticipate the request for a new set of battery-operated extrication tools very soon. And again, that'll come through the board. We'll make sure, because that's paramount. You have to have that for safety for the citizens of the community. So that's again, Chairman McDaniel makes sure that those are the purchases that we make. All new officers are attending leadership training. In 2019, all firefighters and supervisors at Northwest Consolidated will have attained their blue card. And the blue card, I'm not a fireman, and I'll again defer to the chief if I miss something. It focuses more on incident management. And so all the firefighters, everyone at Northwest will have that done so they can be better equipped to handle critical situations, better trained. One thing, and I think a few council members, maybe the mayor has seen it, this past year we also, the fire station uptown, Fire Station 3, we completed the remodel. Approximately $14,000. I would need to look at the books to find out for sure what the cost was, but there's a whole new bathroom in that. If you haven't had the opportunity to go up and look, I know the firefighters are very excited about it. And we also used local construction crews on that. Plumbing by Fisher, Harding Construction, and so it was really nice to be able, whenever we are doing the work in a city building, that we were able to use the locals. So I believe, Chief, did I miss anything? Well, I guess I'm good. We just want to keep everyone apprised of what's going on. And again, after talking to Councilmember Ritter about the mill levy in the past, and that was one of the things that he brought up. Hey, if you're adjusting this stuff, even if it was just at a sidebar, if you could just let us know what's going on. And so that was one of the reasons. Again, we've mentioned that before, and so the chairman said, "Hey, you know what? Let's go up here." I don't know how I got stuck with doing the talking, but I don't know, delegation, I guess. If you have any questions or anything for me, or the chairman, or the chief, either.
Any questions from the council?
I don't. I think it's a great presentation. All sounds good.
And again, we've done a lot more, but we just kind of wanted to hit the nuts and bolts. So
Is this something we would want to do maybe twice a year or something, or
Anytime
quarterly,
you want.
or?
anytime
I mean, this
you
is a
want.
great time after we've both done our budgeting. This makes perfect sense
Yeah.
to do it right about now.
That's
for one of
perfect.
them.
What we can do is we can just put forth.
Look at this one,
just
and then
plan
let's
on
look
doing
6
it.
months ahead and
Yeah.
kind of plug that in.
We can do it next September, and then if we want to do it after the first of the year,
Yeah.
maybe February, March, or something like that.
I think that'd be great.
Make sure we have that happen.
All right. Thank you,
Hopefully,
Doug.
we'll have a little bit more information at that time. Lana, would you like this? Sure. And I have.
I'll make it a copy of the minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, board.
Okay, anyone else wish to address the council tonight? Seeing none, we will move on. Number 3 is old business. We have none. Number 4, consider ordinance to rezone property at 8275 Shawnee Street from C1 to RH.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Actually, I have a prop tonight from 1968. We actually have a rezoning for you that, there's a residence at 8275 Shawnee Street. It's in the C1 district. Property's being sold, and the bank would not allow the loan to move forward because if the structure were destroyed by fire or some sort of event, they could not rebuild it as a single-family home as a rezone in the C1 district. So the owner of the property, in order to get the sale completed, started the process to rezone the property. And with that, we kind of dug back in our history a little bit to see when exactly did this property become C1. It's clearly a residential structure. And from what I can tell, 1968, when City of DeSoto adopted its zoning ordinance number 340, we made this metal print or plate for our first zoning map. And sure enough, the area includes basically from alley to alley on 2nd Street, which is now 83rd Street, from Ottawa to Wyandotte was commercial. And so that stuck for all this time, and now poof, here we are in 2018, and it's become an issue. So with that in mind, we went through the sort of normal zoning process, notified landowners, put up the signs and all those things, held a public hearing at the Planning Commission meeting. And of course, with any zoning, we have to go through the criteria of neighborhood, consistency and all those types of issues. I'm not going to belabor you with all the criteria, but all the items are generally favorable. I mean, we're just rezoning it to the RH, which is the predominant district in the area, and saw no issues with it. We didn't see no public comments were received at the Planning Commission meeting. You do have your Planning Commission minutes in your packet. The owner is very interested in expediting this as soon as possible, so I guess with that, I will stand for any questions.
Questions for Brad?
The criteria, we went through that with the Planning Commission. It's all in your packets.
Right. If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Do we have an ordinance number?
We do.
It is number 2448, Council.
2448.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation for rezoning and approve ordinance number 2448 to rezone the property at 8275 West Shawnee Street from City of DeSoto C1 Business to Central District to RH Residential Historic Old Town District.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Monaco.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
Mayor?
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize, Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a little sidebar, it's now been 2,108 ordinances since that property was originally rezoned, so.
All right, you're up again, I'm assuming. Temporary use permit for the MS 150 bike ride.
Yes, correct. Thank you, council, mayor. As you know, this is an annual item that comes up. The MS 150 uses our city hall back parking lot area between the aquatic center and our building here for one of their stops on the MS 150. Because it's on publicly owned, city-owned property, we do have to bring this before the council for a temporary use permit, but it's exactly what they've done for the last, I don't know, Mike, 5-10 years or so. They really like the Soto as a stopping point, and it works out well for them. They're doing the same notifications to the sheriff's department and Northwest Consolidated Fire District, and they do have to coordinate with Jay, Parks and Rec, so, and they know the drill as well, so this is before you for your approval, so they can hold their event.
Questions on the special use permit application? Not a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve the temporary use permit for the MS 150.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Monaco,
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried, Mayor.
Okay, 4C. Thank you, Brad. Adopt 2019 city budget.
Yes, council, I won't go through the presentation again, but if you're so inclined, the adoption of the budget would come in the form of a motion to accept the budget as prepared. And I will need your signature on the first page of the state budget forms, which are the last 20 or so pages of the entire budget document, essentially setting the budget authority for expenditures for each one of the funds that we talked about earlier. Council, the governing body, does sign this first page there. So if you're so inclined to make that motion, and then I'll...
We good? Somebody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please. Thank you.
Daniels,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Monaco,
Yes.
Mayor?
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Lena.
Motion carried.
All right.
I'm gonna pass this around if I could have your signature. Just down at the bottom right, there's several lines. Several lines down there. Thank you.
We'll take a slight pause to get this signed.
I don't know. I'm not sure I need, when's Lori back?
She'll be back this weekend, I think.
Okay. I can catch up with her next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for all your work on that.
I wasn't the only one.
Okay,
I made you guys suffer too,
Yeah.
didn't I? Enough?
number 5, executive session.
I do have a short, shouldn't take more than 5 minutes for personnel, if we could.
Someone want to make a motion for, did you write up something for
Yeah.
somebody? Oh, good, somebody has
I
something.
make a motion.
I'll make a motion that the city council recesses into executive session to discuss personal matters regarding vacation pursuant to KSA 75-4319B1. The open meeting will resume in the council chambers at 7:40 or 7:45?
40.
7:40, yeah,
7:40
plenty of time.
Okay,
PM.
need a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay.
How are you, sir? I'm Soto.
It's all right.
I'm surprised the money didn't come out tonight.
Probably had something else going on.
Yeah, and in the winter when I can too. Dog powered or yeah, well, I could, I have DC power on. Yeah, it might. I charge my phone up with it and stuff. I have a light,
We're back.
Yep.
All right. So if you had to go to the restroom, you have 3 minutes.
Wouldn't wanna miss anything.
No. Well, we just have reports, right? Mike's gonna have several items, I'm sure. Patrick has one. We need to get you an iPad so you can try something
I know.
remotely.
Nice.
What's on the projector and?
Is that what's,
That's being
is that what's
broadcast
streaming?
right now? That's live now.
Is it really?
Yep. Yeah, if you go to
Is
the
the-
city's webpage and.
Is the lag any better, or is it still?
It's about 5 seconds.
About 5 seconds?
Yeah, so it's a little better, but it's still not, nothing you could use remotely. You
couldn't,
couldn't participate.
You couldn't participate.
iPhone in one ear, stream in the other, so.
On a bus full of band kids.
I had two different audio feeds with about 10-second delay between them.
Good
Because were you listening on like a phone? Is that what we did when you did that?
His cell phone.
Oh, his cell phone.
But-
So you were listening on from his cell phone, and
I
then
can
you
always,
had the
then I had the
feed
live stream,
going.
so I had his cell phone in one ear, live feed in the other, and there was about 10-second, 15-second delay between them. Because I could hear you guys better on the live feed than his cell phone.
Really?
Well, because
Even better now.
as soft-spoken as you are, didn't always pick up on the microphone over there.
It's gonna be even better now.
So it should, yeah, that's one of the things we're adding to it that's gonna be much better.
By my clock, it's 7:40, so we are back in session.
So I make a motion that we approve the transfer of vacation time.
Second.
Okay,
Go for it. Kevin Ritter's got it.
Point of order here. I believe we need to make a
Oh, wait.
motion to come back.
No,
No
no motion to come back, right? That's what they told us at the training.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Uh-uh.
We've done it, but
The fact that you specified the exact time.
All right.
Right, once we hit the time, we're in legal time then.
You just have to make sure you're back at that time.
Right. Okay, to recap, we have a motion by Council Daniel to approve the transfer of vacation, second by Councilman Ritter. Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. Advisory reports. City Administrator.
Just one quick thing, council. The report from Mr. Bedford reminded me, been discussing, last year we did a town hall with the sheriff's office. They came and gave a little presentation of what their year had been, and we had 30 or 40 people probably show up. We're gonna do that again this year, but we're also intending to include the fire district in that. So it's kind of a public safety town hall. And it won't happen until later in the year, but that just reminded me of it. So it was a really successful thing last year, I think, very appreciated too. So we intend to do that again in the fall.
This
Okay.
fall or next fall?
No, it'll be toward the end of this year,
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
Maybe Steve could give a emergency management. piece.
Oh, yeah, good point, yeah, that's public
Give
safety.
him an update on the new sirens and stuff.
Yep. Good point. Thank you.
What else you got?
That's it, thank you.
City Attorney. Patrick.
just wanted to remind you, I did include in the packet, some information on the sidewalk issue at Oak Country 8. I know that's been something that's, been brought up a time or two at council meetings, so, we don't need to discuss that, but, just wanted to throw that information out there. If you do have any questions, happy to try to answer those for you. Then other than that, just, kind of an FYI, Penny Sand, they've been talking, I know they've had a discussion with Mike, and I talked to them today about, transferring the ownership of that land, to a different, an LLC, and then possibly also a different operator, so we'll be working with them through that, but per our regulations, as long as the transferee signs a statement indicating that they will comply with all of the, regulations upon them, then it doesn't need to come to the council to allow that, so we'll be proceeding with that.
Okay.
Other than that, nothing else.
Can I make a comment on the Oak Country thing,
Certainly.
just so everybody knows? I did receive a call from Lee Harris, the developer, earlier in the week where he was pleading his case, if you will. So I just told him it'd have to run through city administrator and the city attorney, and
Just so, and I think, I did put it in the memo, but I know at one point, the developer was, their first request was wanting to do away with it, and we've concluded there just is not, there's not any way to do that, just get rid of it at all. I mean, it just cannot come off the plat, since it was approved that, I mean, I suppose maybe you could try to re-plat it, but with the existing plat, there's just no way to do away with it.
There's a text amendment to not require sidewalks
Yeah.
for that.
It's tough, we're trying to get pedestrian accommodations, pedestrian facilities extended throughout parts of the city, so it's,
well, yeah, and I expressed that I've been vocal about that fact in particular, and that this is an area that creates a loop. which is a walkable scenario. So, but I said, if you've got to take that through the city channels.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions for Patrick? All right. Lana? Oh, sorry, Brad, I skipped city planner.
No problem. Just a couple things. I've got 3 projects that are hitting next week. The Spring Drive water line, Lexington Trails, that's the repairs. It's a pretty big crack that runs basically, starts about the JT's area, goes to there's water, or pardon me, Atlas, transfer station on their pipeline. That's basically where the crack is. It's actually pretty significant, 1.5 to 2 inches. It's starting to actually crack and fall into,
Yeah, it's visible.
lean towards Kill Creek.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is, you can see it. And it's actually worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a couple years ago.
And then finally, tomorrow we're having a walkthrough at the water plant. I'll give you the exterior repairs, and then that moves to next week as well. So, 3 projects on the agenda for September 6th.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you, Brad. Lana?
Yes, as you know, the league conference is coming up October 6th through the 8th, and our annual information sheets here for voting members. So I need to get this turned back to the league in the next couple of weeks. So whomever is going, we need to designate that person as our voting delegate. We can have 2 voting delegates and 2 alternates should one of the regular ones not be available to vote in the business meeting. So if you're going to be attending and can let me know those names in the next week or 2, I would appreciate that.
Does anybody have their plans yet? Know who's planning to attend?
I know
Rob? Kevin, are you gonna be planning to League of Kansas Municipalities Conference?
What, give me the date again.
October 6th through 8th. It's in your league magazine
Yeah.
that you received this month.
It's,
All the information in the packet.
It's like a Saturday to Monday.
Yeah, it's a weekend deal.
most of the stuff is the Monday though, right? Most of the
The
educational
business
stuff.
meeting is on Monday. There really isn't that much that goes on Saturday this year.
Yeah.
Where is
Sunday and Monday will be
Pika.
your.
Pika.
Sunday, I guess, is, yeah, it's Sunday, Monday.
I'm available. I could attend.
Well, I need to get registration if you want to get with me and let me know in the next few days.
Danny, are you, have any plans to go? Okay. I think I've registered to go. Maybe I did on my own.
You must have.
I better check.
You didn't ask me to, so.
I think
I'll get with you.
it's on my list. I was debating whether or not to get a hotel there for Sunday night, but I think I decided not, so. I will be going, at least for Sunday and Monday, so.
All right, so who would like to be the 2 voting delegates and who would like to be the 2 alternates? If we have 4 people going.
Mike, are you going?
Yeah, I'll go.
Atlanta, you're going, right?
I will not this
Oh,
year.
you're not going this year. Okay. I'm not sure if Lori was planning to go or not. She probably wouldn't go for the Monday, so.
Well, as long as we have at least 2 and,
We have 2. Rob and I can be the voting and Mike can be the alternate.
okay?
And Kevin, you can be either, or I'll let you have a,
Alternate
yeah. I'll let you slide into the first team if you decide to go and you can be a voting.
Whatever.
You just raise a paddle
Yeah.
when it's. Okay.
All right. And if you haven't registered yourself, please do so before the early bird is over, or let me know and I will be happy to do that for you.
Yeah. Can you, I don't know, if you could, can you check and see if I'm it should tell you if you tried to register me, it would tell you I'd already registered, wouldn't it? Maybe? No?
I'm not sure.
I don't wanna
because
register
I go in-
twice.
I go in under a different
Okay.
login than you would.
All right. I will see. I'll see if I should have got a confirmation email or something if I did it.
Yes, you would.
All right. I'll check on
Next council
that.
meeting, I will be at IIMC on annual budget meeting for IIMC, so Patrick will probably be your recording clerk next council meeting.
Okay.
Or maybe Kathy.
Or, yes, Kathy may be,
Did I give
because
her
I've
a
asked
buzz?
her.
You may have lost your job.
Might have got bumped, huh?
Yeah.
Rick, I don't think you're registered.
Okay.
But that's where I will
That
be.
lists who's signed
That's
up
all I
for it.
have, Mayor.
All right. Lana, would you register me? Rob just checked. I'm not registered yet.
Okay, so I need to register the mayor,
Yeah.
Mr. Honmichael?
Please.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else? Oh, sorry. You were still asking.
Well, I'm just
You were
seeing
still
who I-
polling the
Who
group.
I need to register,
you.
so,
All right.
thank you, council.
Thank you, Lana. Council comments. Kevin, you want to start? You got
Have
anything
none.
tonight? Okay. Rob?
No, just the public safety came up. I've had the privilege of volunteering with the sheriff's department a couple days in the last month, and just appreciate their professionalism and their training.
Kevin?
Well,
Oh, sorry.
Since I forgot, do you want to report the results of the interviews this afternoon?
Oh, 91st Street engineers. We had Kevin, myself, Brad, and that guy over there, Mike. Looked over the proposals, narrowed it down to 3. They came in for interviews today with Brad, Mike, and myself. And after the interviews, CFS was the one that we're recommending.
This is for what?
CFS
Street Extension.
for the 91st Street extension.
So what we'll do is, how those work is a qualifications-based selection process. So we've selected them based on their qualifications and interview. Now we'll negotiate a contract with them. So we'll start that tomorrow. Maybe bring it back at the next meeting, but it might be the second meeting in September. Depending on how cooperative they are.
They're nice people over there.
Yeah, I've heard.
Very good. Good job.
Thanks, Rob.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Kevin?
2 things real quick. I really enjoyed the Northwest Consolidated Fire District stepping up and coming up and telling us that they reduced their mill levy and giving us an update. I have been speaking to a couple of them sidebar, so I appreciate that. And then the other one was the turn signal light that was in the budget for next year. Did we ever consider whether we could do that early this year and then repay that back next year? Because every time I go through that intersection.
It's when you sit, it's when you're headed eastbound, right? You're sitting there waiting, you,
Coming off the highway.
coming off the
Coming off the
highway,
highway.
if you're, I don't know, that detector does not work.
To trigger the left.
To trigger, yeah, that
Well,
green for
well,
that.
there's no left.
like I said,
There's no
green
left.
is
It just
either.
turns
Yeah.
green. It turns green both ways.
Yeah, it turns green both
And
ways, and the cars just
And
are
Mike,
just
correct me
nearly
if I'm wrong.
collide all the time.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We were talking about putting a green and a turn
Turn.
to where only eastbound went and then only
Yeah, we're
westbound
gonna
went, where you avoided
split the phase, right.
having that confusion.
Yeah, so the 60,000 we have in the, and the answer to your question is yes, we can go ahead and do that project now. 60,000 was to put left turn arrows on all 4 legs. And so the north and southbound would operate like a normal left turn where both left turns go at
At the same
once
time.
and then both throughs go. But the east and west, like you said, we would just, you just have the eastbound go and then just have the west. That's less efficient, but it's our only choice. I mean, so we'll certainly have the discussion with
I would
KDOT
like
one
to-
last time about can we just put a stripe down?
Yeah, if we could just run a stripe 100 feet down that lane,
Yeah.
that ramp.
But we've had that discussion
I
for
know.
10 years and gotten.
And at what level at KDOT are you having that discussion?
Area engineer.
Can we,
Elevate it.
can we elevate it?
We could
You
certainly,
know,
yeah,
like a
go that
council
route.
signed letter,
Um,
signed by, mayor and council
certainly.
sign a letter
We
and
can go
send
to
it
the
up to
top.
I
the
was gonna
Secretary
say-
of Transportation.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd take it to the
Would it
top.
help getting Willie or our state level representatives involved to help with that?
I think my recommendation on dealing with the Secretary of Transportation would be first take it to him
Mhm.
and see if we get a favorable response before you get the legislator
Uh-huh,
involved. And if you get a negative response, then I would get the legislator involved.
Yeah,
Sure.
we can certainly pull out all those past correspondence. I mean,
Yep.
we've certainly been down the
Yeah,
road. a
because
couple
the area
times.
engineers are gonna do their job, right? They're gonna do their job. I think it's really what needs to be done, and the only way we're gonna get it is if we escalate it.
We can do that.
Just some forward action would be appreciated.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of near misses.
Yeah.
But I think I'd be along with Kevin, if there's enough incidents or close incidents, the sooner that could be.
That's the thing. There are a lot of near misses. A lot.
And there's a lot of confusion. There's
There's a
constant
lot of
confusion there.
A stripe would help, and then having the lights would help. If there was a stripe, then you might be able to have the normal left turns at the same time, but,
But you can have the left and the through at the same time.
yeah, or the
Yeah.
left and through, but
Yeah.
I think combination of trying to get the stripe and also trying to look at moving forward with that. just
Yeah.
for
So
safety
with
issues.
if we were able to put the stripe, then we could handle. We could still do the left turn arrows and do just the lefts and just the throughs. Without the stripe, then people don't know where to sit if they're going to turn left or if they're going to go straight. So without the stripe, you have to do just eastbound and just westbound. So we will.
And traffic flow would be, because it's gonna be a definite impediment to traffic flow, doing a
That's
dedicated
right.
left
That's right.
and then waiting on a
And-
dedicated through.
And to the mayor's point, we've had trouble with that detector loop before and continue.
Yep.
It doesn't sense people. I mean, there's been periods of time where it won't sense. That's really the only time I've seen it back up that ramp is when that sensor isn't working.
You have to wait on somebody to come from the other way.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, and that's really the only time I've seen it back up. But it would be less efficient doing it without the stripe. Would be less efficient. And KDOT, I mean, they might have concerns just about that. Just about the left turn arrow. So
It
we'll.
Seems like a minimal cost to sit up here and then not have to explain why we didn't do something for the good of the.
Okay.
Well, I think before we spend the money, we need to run it up the flagpole at KDOT. and
A little
see
bit
if-
higher.
A little
yeah.
bit higher and see if
Okay.
we can get some relief on that.
All the way up.
Will do.
All the way up.
Because even with the stripe, we'll want the signal modifications, but
Yes.
finding out about the stripe lets us know how to set up the signal modifications.
Correct.
Right. So we could, start on parallel tracks.
Mhm.
Get the project going. Get the design going for the signals.
Because the
At the same
designs
time.
can be pretty similar with or without the stripe. It's a matter of how it's going to be programmed.
Yeah,
That's
exactly
So
right. Yeah.
you could
Or
run
would you add
parallel.
a head? You would add a head if you can do the through and the left at the same time.
Yeah, each.
That's
You're gonna need to add a
true.
signal head.
I'm not-
You're
I
going to
can't-
add a signal
how
head
many
either
heads
way,
there
though.
are.
No,
It's just a matter of
because you'll have one. Well, you'll
you have to have-
replace a
you
head,
have- Yeah.
and you'll replace a head with a signal that'll have green arrow that'll go yellow.
we were looking at having two heads there no matter what, weren't we?
We've already got
Not
two.
without
I
a
Do we?
think there
So
are.
I think you're
got
correct. I
one
think
on
you
the
would
pole and
replace the
one on
green
the
with an
arm.
arrow.
Ideally,
and then
you'd
the green
have
over
one in
here
front
would
of
be the
each
straight.
lane and one on the pole.
I can't zoom
But
in
you
far
gotta-
enough to really see. I thought there was.
Which is
With Street View?
Oh, good idea. That's what I guess there.
Oh, yeah, we got
So
plenty
there's
of heads.
two. Oh,
That's
there's
where-
only one.
that's
there.
where you're gonna
That's
have
what
to have
we-
two
That's
signal
what we
heads.
had.
that's-
We were
and
wanting to
that's
add
what
a
we're talking
head
about, two
here.
signal
Yeah.
heads.
For
It's
each
just
of
a matter
these,
of how it would be
so that,
programmed. Of would it be two
have
left
one
turns
in
at
front
the
of
same
each
time,
lane.
or
Yeah.
just literally north, eastbound, westbound?
And then one on the
And see, there's someone trying to do it.
Yeah,
Well, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it really would work, but
And that's where two signal heads with
Yeah.
or without a stripe are going to be probably what we're talking about and what we have talked about. It's just a matter of, are we programming it to where both left turns go at the same time with a stripe, or you simply allow eastbound and then westbound at separate times?
we'll
We'll
draft
get,
a
we'll
letter.
get going.
and we'll,
Absolutely. We'll get.
We'll all sign it.
We'll do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Danny,
I know that you went up to the fire station, Mayor, and
I did.
I did also, and took a tour later. Found some things that needed to be addressed up there on the backside of that building. Noticed that in the, I think it's the telco access point in that building through that pipe was leaking water and into the bay through the wall. I think on the back side of there, if we can caulk that whole area before it gets to the stairs going down to the door and in between the building and that concrete, would maybe eliminate that. And then also I noticed upstairs the gas coming up from, they have a toilet that's not in use up there and some facilities that they didn't use. And they need to either cap those or put water down them and do the old trick of vegetable oil on top to keep it from drying out so quick. To keep that smell from coming up there. I know that that's a couple of things, and I asked to see the new chief when he got back, but I hadn't heard anything yet, so
Okay.
I don't know. So
So I think on our new lease, right, the whole maintenance of that building is now,
Everything's on
it's
the district.
it's the fire, we've
Yeah.
basically, for the lease, we've turned the building over to them, so.
Yeah.
we-
Yep.
But you're right to report that the chief would be the person to share that with them.
yeah, that's what I was
Will.
hoping to get with him when
Yeah.
he got back. I don't know when he's due back, but
Okay. Anything else tonight?
that's it.
Thank you, Danny. I think I just have one thing. I think DeSoto Days will happen before our next meeting, right?
Ah, yeah, that's right.
So,
We got 3 weeks in between.
yeah. Encourage you all to participate in any way you can. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.